partners who are joining us these days with the commitment of strengthening subnational efforts in the achievement of the SDGs. As you know, colleagues, VSRs are innovative tools that can enhance dialogue between spheres of government, as well as local and regional ownership of the goals. In today's session, we'll present the main findings of the voluntary subnational reviews that have been developed in 2021. We're sure that this session will be a great opportunity to exchange between representatives from national governments, partners, and share the first reaction to the reports that have been produced. Without further ado, I would like first to give the floor to the Mayor of Soria and Envoy of the UCLG Presidency for the New Urban Agenda, Mayor Carlos Martínez Mínguez. Alcalde, por favor.
Muy bien, muy buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Un placer, como siempre, poder compartir unos minutos de debate, de reflexión y de diálogo sobre los retos más importantes que tenemos a nivel internacional y que una vez nos vuelven a convocar, ¿no?, a un buen número de grupos locales, de gobiernos locales, con otros miembros de la representación de sociedad civil y de representantes nacionales y de ONU Habitat para poder debatir, como digo, sobre los retos más importantes que tenemos encima de la mesa, ¿no? Quiero agradecer, ¿no?, que me han permitido Emilia, todo el grupo de CGLU, abrir esta sesión y dar la bienvenida con ello, en primer lugar, a Maimuna, nuestra querida directora general ejecutiva de ONU Habitat, que siempre está codo con codo trabajando con nosotros, entendiendo de primera mano cuáles los planteamientos y las propuestas que, como generadores de alianzas que somos, los gobiernos locales de distintos países internacionales ponemos encima de la mesa para la consecución de la Agenda 2030, ¿no? A su vez, quiero también aprovechar, ¿no?, para trasladar todo el apoyo y toda la solidaridad a toda la ciudadanía, ¿no?, que en distintas partes del planeta todavía a día de hoy está sufriendo la parte más cruda de esta situación sanitaria, con las derivadas económicas y sociales que nos vienen encima ya y a las que tenemos que hacer frente con mayor fuerza, como el reto más importante que tenemos, ¿no? Cada una de las generaciones nos toca combatir el tiempo en que nos toca asumir nuestras responsabilidades, y a nosotros nos ha tocado combatir una situación sanitaria inédita que en apenas 24 horas ha dado la vuelta al orden mundial establecido, ¿no? Quiero recordar que hace poco más de un año hablábamos de la necesidad de la localización de los ODS, hablábamos de la necesidad de la aceleración a través de los gobiernos locales, ¿no?, como agentes fundamentales en la implementación de la Agenda 2030 y la consecución de los 17 Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible, y pocos, ¿no?, podíamos haber intuido ni tan siquiera que 24 horas después de aquella reunión en Marrakech podíamos estar en plena pandemia internacional y con una situación como la que estamos atravesando ahora mismo, ¿no? Eso nos hace todavía que tengamos que entender con mayor fortaleza la importancia del trabajo que estamos haciendo, ¿no? Y eso nos hace que todavía tengamos que entender más la necesidad, que hoy ya es una obligación, de seguir marcándonos, seguir rediseñando los sistemas de producción alimentarios, los sistemas de producción de servicios esenciales. Tengamos que volver a rediseñar y a obligarnos a retomar la gobernanza multinivel y horizontal como un recurso que sea capaz de afrontar el grandísimo reto que tenemos encima de la mesa, y la necesidad de abordar las estrategias globales de implementación de los ODS desde el protagonismo crucial que tienen que tener los gobiernos locales para su implementación, ¿no? Por eso yo me gusta la sesión de hoy especialmente, ¿no?, porque hoy, a través de los informes locales voluntarios, lo que hacemos es desenmascarar, ¿no?, los grandes números de las grandes estrategias nacionales y tener una foto mucho más certera de una realidad que a día de hoy es la que se vive, se convive en las ciudades pequeñas e intermedias, en las grandes ciudades, en los distintos distritos de las grandes áreas urbanas y metropolitanas, descendiendo y localizando mediante acciones concretas el desarrollo y la consecución de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Va a permitir que, si son importantes los informes nacionales voluntarios, todavía lo son más los informes locales voluntarios, porque son los que nos van a dar con absoluta certeza cuál es el grado de avance, de contacto con la ciudadanía y de resolución de sus problemas que tenemos que poner encima de la mesa en estos próximos meses, ¿no? Por eso, en esa doble dirección, ¿no?, de rendición de cuentas, de generar alianza con la ciudadanía y de desarrollo de unas estrategias locales que de alguna forma se coordinen y enganchen a las estrategias nacionales, es el reto fundamental que tenemos encima de la mesa, ¿no? Y este contexto todavía nos lo pone un mayor, ¿no?, con un mayor grado de manifiesto, con un mayor grado de necesidad, ¿no? Voy a ser muy breve, pero no quiero cortar la intervención sin apuntar dos reflexiones acerca del contexto en el que estamos ahora mismo, acerca de la oportunidad que se nos abre también en un futuro. En primer lugar, hablamos del riesgo, ¿no? Yo quiero poner encima de la mesa hoy, aquí, aprovechando también que está la Dirección General Ejecutiva de UNO Hábitat, ¿no? Y muchos colegas y representantes nacionales, del riesgo claro que yo estoy viendo, al menos en mi país y en todo el entorno de la Unión Europea, no solamente de que se produzca un avance en la descentralización y el mayor protagonismo de los gobiernos locales, sino que se produzca un fenómeno inverso, ¿no? Es decir, que exista una involución a esa descentralización que todos entendemos como la herramienta fundamental para conseguir los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. La atracción, ¿no? La seducción que en un momento dado por unas medidas cortoplacistas puede dar esa verticalidad en la toma de decisiones en lugar de la horizontal que busca el multinivel, la multiadministración, lo multilateral, es un riesgo que es claro, ¿no? Yo estoy viendo cómo incluso existen ya voces, ¿no? desde altos representantes políticos, tanto a nivel nacional como a nivel europeo, que buscan incluso esa jerarquía vertical en la toma de decisiones como un grado de mucho más eficacia, de mucho más operativo a la hora de hacer frente a una pandemia de estas características. Y si bien puede ser en cuestiones cortoplacistas puntuales, creo que tenemos que seguir recalcando permanentemente la necesidad de ir a una gobernanza horizontal, a una gobernanza multinivel, a una gobernanza multiactor, en que la participación ciudadana sea clave a través de las políticas de gobierno abierto, en que los gobiernos locales tengamos una pieza clave y fundamental. No seremos capaces, lo decimos siempre, ¿no?, de desarrollar los objetivos de la Agenda 2030 y la localización de los ODS mediante acciones concretas si no somos capaces de implicar a los gobiernos locales. Y si generamos esa involución, una recentralización en administraciones de supuesto rango superior, hablo de Administración General del Estado, administraciones regionales en nuestro caso, desde luego no vamos bien, ¿no? Y ese es un riesgo que está ahí encima de la mesa, que yo he hablado con otros colegas, tanto del ámbito europeo como del ámbito nacional y del ámbito internacional, y es un riesgo que existe y es cierto, ¿no? Y en paralelo a este riesgo, quiero hacer hincapié también en la oportunidad que se nos abre este próximo año con la evaluación de la nueva agenda urbana. Necesitamos territorializar. Hemos hablado mucho de la localización de los ODS para visualizar los gobiernos locales como el aliado perfecto, pero necesitamos medir una escala que en el ámbito territorial nos permita desarrollar estrategias que generen prestación de servicios públicos adecuados con igualdad de oportunidades también, de desarrollo de proyectos vitales que generen economía, que generen cobertura social, que generen empleo, a una escala que tengamos que definir. Y ese es el reto inmediato que tenemos con la nueva agenda urbana. Y ese es el nexo que la nueva agenda urbana nos va a permitir, a través de los informes locales, unirnos con las estrategias nacionales y con las estrategias regionales. Creo que lo más importante que tenemos en este próximo año es aprovechar la oportunidad que nos da Quito +5 para, de alguna forma, poner en el centro de la acción política la nueva agenda urbana mediante estrategias que, territorializadas a una escala que definamos en cada una de las estrategias nacionales, sea capaces de definir cuál es el mapa de partida de cada uno de los territorios y cuál es el objetivo de llegada para poder hacer un análisis y una rendición de cuenta adecuada, para poder dar una respuesta eficaz a los planteamientos que nos hace la ciudadanía y para poder ser mucho más eficaces a la hora de dar cobertura a esa frase de no dejar a nadie atrás en ningún territorio atrás, ¿no? Creo que ahí esa oportunidad que se nos abre en Quito +5 es absolutamente clave y fundamental. Y vuelvo a hacer ese llamamiento, ¿no?, aprovechando que está aquí Maimuna, para que no seamos considerados una vez más como meros invitados, los gobiernos locales, dentro de las estructuras de los organismos internacionales. Somos Estado y como Estado tenemos pleno derecho a participar en las estrategias, no solamente como ejecutores de las mismas, sino como redactores, como hacedores de estas grandes agendas internacionales que tienen que descender a los territorios. Y necesitamos formar parte de forma oficial en esa toma de decisiones, que se nos abra un espacio, porque seremos los mejores aliados que pueda tener Naciones Unidas, que pueda tener ONU Hábitat a la hora, primero, de contener ese riesgo de involución recentralizadora que yo veo y, desde luego, para poder ser mucho más realistas a la hora de abordar ese desarrollo de acciones concretas que a la gente den una respuesta inmediata a lo que estamos planteando. Esa es la reflexión que yo quería dejaros hoy aquí. Agradeceros todas las aportaciones que se van a dar y ojalá podamos enriquecer el debate con estas 2 horas largas que tenemos por delante. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Mayor, Special Envoy. Before yielding the floor to the next speaker, I'd like to reiterate the importance of, as you have said, the potential of the new urban agenda to territorialize development and to establish a nexus between local and national strategies to respond to the needs of the citizens. Allow me now to give the floor to Executive Director of UN Habitat and Under Secretary General Maimouna Mohamed Sharif. Executive Director, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear Amelia and Honorable Minister Moyo, dear Mayor Carlos Martinez, colleagues, excellencies, friends, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Welcome to the second day of the VLR and VSR Days, I will call it, and to this very important session on voluntary subnational reviews. I would like to congratulate UCLG for its leadership in the creation of voluntary subnational reviews worldwide, and specifically at the Local Governments Association that have worked tirelessly in the past months to develop or support the VSRs. Yesterday, we launched the second volume of the guidelines for the VLR that looks into the multi-level connection between national and local processes for SDG reporting. And I firmly believe that the voluntary subnational review are and will be a central piece of this equation. So VSR have indeed the potential to serve as a basis for continued dialogue between local and national governments on SDG implementation. And in the past months, we have already seen how the elaboration of VSR has contributed to a critical improvement in the involvement of the local governments and their association in the national reporting processes, such as the cases of Mexico and Germany. So VSR provides a country-wide analysis of subnational efforts for localization of the SDGs. So they identify the main challenges and gaps at local level, providing critical information for the development of VNR. At the same time, VSR also support the local government association in strengthening the capacity of local governments in achieving the SDGs. I believe that VLRs, VSR, and also VNRs, if aligned and coordinated, can be powerful tools to enhance policy coherence and delivery of the development policies for our communities, especially in view of promoting sustainable, resilient, and inclusive recovery after the pandemic. I heard you, Mayor Martinez, your 3 points just now, and I myself believe in the integration of vertical and horizontal integration in the decision-making process at all levels, either it's at the global level, regional level, national level, and the local level. So the high-level meeting in New York next year on the 28th of April 2022 on Quito +5 is the very, very important platform for all of us. It's not only a local government, I think for the whole system to look into the implementation of a new urban agenda and the localization of the SDGs. So dear partners, the VSR you have elaborated are important building blocks in advancing the localization of the SDG. So on behalf of UN Habitat, I reiterate our commitment to supporting and leveraging your effort to strengthen the global movement for the localization of the SDG. You can count on us because now at the moment, now UN Habitat is also chairing the Future Cities Task Force, where the Global Task Force is in, and also we are now moving forward to the Local 2030 Coalition. So let's work together, let's work harder, pray harder, and hope that it will be materialized and will be launched during the General Assembly in September this year on the Local 2030 Coalition. So thank you very much for giving me this moment and to be together with you. And thank you, and I hope that we can get the outcomes of this deliberation and can bring this to the high-level meeting next year in New York in April 2022. Thank you very much. Over to you, Jos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Executive Director. And thank you for the words on the potential of VLRs, VSRs, and the need to align and coordinate them in order to deliver the policies for sustainable development and the SDGs. And finally, allow me to introduce the last speaker of this opening session, His Excellency July Moyo, Minister of Local Government of Public Works of Zimbabwe. Your Excellency, whenever you're ready, thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator and honorable speakers, Carlos Martinez, Mayor of Soria, and Madam Sharif, Executive Director of UN Habitat, and all the representatives of local authorities, representatives of associations of local authorities from across the globe. I'm very happy to participate in this session, especially talking about voluntary local reviews, which must be linked to the voluntary national reviews, and the impetus that you have given and the awareness that there ought to be a link between the national and the local is most welcome. Not that local authorities were not participating in the SDGs, but it is at the level of consciousness, of awareness, of systematic reporting and data collection that was lacking. By making sure that we conscientize our local authorities to do this, we will be advancing the SDGs, achievement of those SDGs for Vision 2030. In Zimbabwe, yes, we have local authorities which are part of our constitution. The constitution makes sure that local authorities are the governments nearest to the people, and they have been given powers in the constitution which have been translated into subsidiary legislation. And the cornerstone of those pieces of legislation, both the constitution and the subsidiary legislation, is what has now been termed our devolution and decentralization agenda. This devolution and decentralization agenda analyzes Zimbabwe sub-national institution in three parts. Firstly, there are the provincial and metropolitan councils, and then the second one is the local authorities, which are divided into urban local authorities and those which are mostly rural urban local local authorities. But even those rural ones have some form of urbanization that has taken place. And the last thing are the communities, particularly in the rural areas. These communities have institutions of chieftainships, traditional leaderships. And so when we are talking about voluntary local reviews, we have to look at those institutions at sub-national level to see how they can report. But the cornerstone of this is the local authority. Because in our jurisdiction, the local authority has the power to raise own taxes. And because they have the power to raise their own taxes, they must contribute to the fulfillment of these SDGs, sometime with little or sometime with more support from central government. Some local authorities which are doing very well because they have basic assets to undertake and to raise their own funds, they can do better than those who are unable. And in our constitution, we allow the central government to give subventions in order to uplift those which are behind, so that we don't leave any community behind, we don't leave anyone behind. That is taken care of by the constitution, by a sort of equalization grants that must be given to the local authorities through these devolution funds, which when we give to the local authorities, it is on a weighted average. The greater weighting is on poverty. We put more percentage on the depth of poverty. The second weighting is the infrastructure that is in that local authority. And the third weighting is the population that is in that local authority. So that is how we want to use this sustainability threshold, by making sure that local authorities do raise their own fund, and we help as government to make sure that their basic assets, the property tax that they get, is enhanced so that they can participate in the SDGs. Zimbabwe, obviously, in its national development strategy, which we have just enacted this year, we have taken a look at all the SDGs, the 17 of them at the national level, and try to mainstream them in our strategy in order to eliminate poverty. But what we are now also doing through this initiative of local voluntary reviews is to make sure that all the local authorities can look at all the 17 SDGs and say, which ones can we implement? Which ones are we implementing because it's a mandate under the Rural District Council Act, or under the Urban Councils Act, or under the Provincial Councils Act? So we have reviewed and we have looked at almost all of them, and we think local governments are the bedrock of implementing these SDGs. For instance, if you want to end poverty in all its forms everywhere, we think that in our own constitution, both in section 264 of the constitution and section 301 of the constitution, the local authorities have to analyze their asset base in their wards, the wards of the councils, and using their asset base to eliminate poverty in indices. And at the end of the day, our president is now saying each local authority must tell us its GDP, so that we can start to see those which are lagging behind, and those which are lagging behind. There's a section in the constitution which impels government to say, what can you do so that we don't leave any local authority behind, and we use a measurement that is known by all the local authorities. Ending hunger and all these, our local authorities are at the forefront. Either way, we have droughts, for instance, of making sure that they petition and they work with government to make sure that we have either cash subventions or we have food subventions. And in the urban areas, because of unemployment, the local authorities in their wards are also involved in this agenda. So we have looked at all the indices that are captured in the SDGs, the 17 of them, and we think within our jurisdiction, all the local authorities, urban and rural, you have something to report on. And the way of reporting is what we needed. And the impetus that we have been given using these tools that we have now got, we should be able to report. And our ZILGA, the Zimbabwe Local Government Association, has already started on this journey. We have had 2 reports, one in February 2020, and the other one in the just ended meeting in Brazzaville. And the ZILGA president, who is now, I'm sure, listening to what I'm saying, will be giving more detail about their findings, about what they found out in terms of the awareness at the local level. But we are clear that this awareness can be eliminated the more we are cooperating with cooperating partners, whether it's UCLGS or with the UN Habitat or other organizations that we can, and we have the ability and the institutional framework to undertake these VLRs. And these will be taken, obviously, with the linkage that the Ministry of Local Government and Public Works has always been part and parcel of the VNR reporting or reviews that are taking place in this country. In fact, in a number of cases, we chair, as part of government, we chair most of these poverty-related and disaster-related committees of government. So we work very well with our point person or our point ministry, the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Services, and in a lot of cases we chair them, because once we chair them, whether it's a disaster or is poverty related and we want to relieve, we chair them so that we are the ministry that can link with the provinces, which can link with the local authorities, all the 92 of them. So
Your Excellency,
thank you very much for having me on this platform, and I want to encourage debate so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Of all of the interesting things you say, I'd like to reiterate the importance of bridging the gap between local action and local reporting. Since we're running a bit late, I would like to just give thank all of the speakers of this very interesting opening section, and give the floor over to my colleague Edgardo Bielski, who will be moderating the presentation of VSRs. Edgardo, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jose. Thank you very much, Executive Director, Honorable Minister, dear Mayor Carlos Martinez, for your opening. Now, it is a pleasure and an honor to moderate this session that brings together also ministers and high-level representatives from national offices and different ministries in charge of voluntary national reporting processes, as well as the 8 presidents of local governments associations that developed this year voluntary subnational reviews from Zimbabwe, but also from Norway, Cape Verde, Indonesia, Mexico, Sweden, Tunisia, and Germany. We are very proud of the progress made this year on the impact of this voluntary subnational review, strengthening the dialogue between the national governments and local governments, as well as the ownership and leadership of local governments associations to enhance the localization movement. This panel is the result of this process. We have the feeling that these voluntary subnational efforts, coupled with the exponential expansion of voluntary local reviews, are breaking new grounds in the SDGs reporting process. The panel is built to give the possibility to the president of local governments associations to briefly introduce the reports, and then let the representative of national governments to react to the presentation. We expect to take away lessons to improve and expand these efforts in the coming years. Our dream is, as many as of you have already done, to improve the assessment of the localization of the SDGs and to feed and better complement the voluntary national reviews with the aim to support a whole of government and a whole of society approach. I would like to remind to the different speakers to keep the time allowed. For the presentation of the report, I remind you, you have 8 minutes, and for respondents, 4 minutes. To facilitate the presentation of the PowerPoint that some of you have shared, please indicate when you want to change for the next slide. Then I give straight down the floor to the representative of the Zimbabwe Local Governments Association, to Silga. That is the only one that we inverse. We give the floor first to the minister and now to the president. For the coming on, there will be the president of the Local Government Association and then the representative of the national government. Mr. Aderman David Gumutasa, please, if you can present the Silga Voluntary Subnational Report. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, the organizers of this very important discussion. We are coming in as Zilga, Zimbabwe Local Government Association. I would like to thank the Honorable Minister of Local Government in Zimbabwe, Honorable Duraimo, for his presentation, which has almost covered most of the issues that we had. But the case study for the Sdcd, localization in Zimbabwe, the national microeconomic planning cleared the ministry and the parliamentary oversight structures have been aligned to SDGs since 2015. Zilga and the ministry responsible for local government are still to develop and implement a systematic SDG localization initiative for local governments. The national coordination mechanization needs to steer subnational localization. The VSR preparation methodology. The first one is the national context of SDG implementation, is especially localization. The competitive awareness of SDGs at central and local level. The presence of SDG agenda in different local authorities. The nature of local government initiatives, which are the policies, plans, structure, law in place. Program implementation at local government level. Effectiveness of the initiatives and the programs in meeting their objectives as well as SDGs. Not to forget the COVID-19 responses and recovery planning at local level and existing system of monitoring and evaluation processes towards SDG at local level. We do have few councils in the urban and again municipalities and rural local authorities. In the urban sector, we had 9, and in rural local authorities, we had 15 from 8 different provinces. That actually covers the rural local authorities. And our findings, very few individuals, like 25%, are familiar with SDGs. On the few that are familiar, few are aware of their relevance. Majority of officials are aware of SDGs, but they are not high in their priorities. 25% of the organizations that know about SDGs are making reference to them in their strategies. And with that, we'll give you a diagram which shows the level of awareness in local authorities. And I'm sure you are seeing the diagram. I don't know whether it is very clear, but I think that is where how we assessed it when we went through with the local authorities. And the formal commitment on the next slide towards SDG implementation, that is the survey which was done in April 2021, very recent. And that shows the level at where we are with the SDGs. And I think a lot needs to be done to get to at the same level. And I think that is achievable, given the drive which we have and the working relationship which we have with the central government and our main ministry, which is the Ministry of Local Government. Then plugging a local authority funding gaps. It is this disbursement of the devolution funds. It has begun plugging local authority funding gaps. In Zimbabwe, we have actually started having devolution funds disbursed to local authorities. And that is what I mean by covering the gaps in the funding. And local funding is limited and cannot address all the gaps arising from decades of inadequate investment. Local physical autonomy and the performance remain low. Citizens' contributions are limited due to poverty and the political disengagement. When I say political disengagement, we are talking about those elected councillors who, when they get into the office and then they don't go back to their constituencies or respective local authorities. And that is where we actually talking about the disengagement. Consequently, resource flows for SDGs implementations are weak. Still more, SDG reporting is yet to be initiated systematically. That we need to actually look into that. Now we look at the engagement gaps. We are talking about the data and the initialization and the fragmentation, resource limitations, absence of SDG institutionalization. And when we now move to, after having gone through all this, we are actually looking at our recommendations to address these strategies gaps. It is important for Zimbabwe to develop and implementations a systematically institutional framework for SDG localization, connecting national mechanization and the institutional government. And secondly, to build the capacity of ZILGA and the ministry responsible for local government to support the SDG localization program. This is vital. Prepare an SDG localization program to address local critical awareness gaps in the manner that leaves no one behind. I would like to amplify SDG localization as part of the framing the devolution implementation in Zimbabwe. A review of the local authority funding mechanization to facilitate the SDG implementation. In conclusion, Zimbabwe has joined the rest of the world in the localization of SDGs. SDGs reporting is yet to be initiated systematically. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you a lot, and the Minister from Zimbabwe for the intervention. Now we are moving to Norway, to the President of the Norwegian Association of Local Authorities, KS, Mr. Bjorn Arlit Gram. And I remind you, please, to keep the time. If not, it would be difficult to have all the colleagues in front. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Chair. Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends. For the first time, the Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities, KS, has assessed progress on the Sustainable Development Goals in Norwegian local and regional governments. We are happy to supplement Norway's 2021 voluntary national review with local and regional results and findings. Furthermore, the government of Norway welcomed KS's proposal to coordinate work on the two reports, and KS has contributed with a dedicated chapter on the SDG work on local and regional authorities in the national report. Our VSR report seeks to share Norwegian good practice and to strengthen cooperation across levels of government. To transform, we need to innovate. KS has therefore entered into a political agreement with the government to promote cooperation between national, regional, and local levels of government to further strengthen the work making Norway sustainable. I'm proud to share with you how KS went about making this report, what we found, how we need to continue our efforts, and how the report already has contributed to strengthening cooperation across tiers of government in Norway for Agenda 2030. Our subnational review was prepared through an inclusive and participatory process involving a survey to municipalities and regional authorities. It also consists of analysis of pre-collected data, discussions in networks and platforms, gathering local and regional governments. In addition, it includes feedback from peers also developing VSRs and presenting their reports here today, and constructive dialogue with the government team preparing Norway's national review. We also included knowledge gained from 6 local reviews. UN Habitat and UCLG have been important for our work and assisted us with cutting-edge knowledge and facilitated peer dialogue and knowledge exchange. The key findings in our report are clear evidence for the requirement for local action to reach many of the SDG targets. Progress on the SDGs requires political commitment. And there is a huge variety in local and regional authorities' matureness on how they approach sustainability. Size of municipality or region is not in itself important for commitment, action, and success, but networking and cooperation with peers makes a significant contribution to progress. For instance, in the region of Møre and Romsdal, the first in the world, I think, to measure local results of sustainability in all of the municipalities in the region. And policy cohesion across tiers of government helps. Lack of policy cohesion is still a major obstacle for optimizing sustainability. We find that some of the more important things local and regional governments can do to establish an enabling environment include that local and regional authorities must reach out to citizens, the business community, and civil society with information on the SDGs to create ownership and build local commitment. Citizens' participation is key to succeeding. In Norway, a cluster of municipalities are collaborating on increasing citizens' involvement. Most municipalities and regions in Norway have already incorporated the SDGs in their strategy and identified prioritized goals. Already, nearly half of municipal master plans are constructed on the SDGs, and this percentage is increasing very quickly. Sustainability guide local development. Some already measure and report progress on the goals and targets in their management system. Yet few municipalities have fully incorporated the SDGs in budgeting or procurement strategies. Pursuing the SDGs in local and regional government has resulted in new partnerships and new ways of working. This innovation potential, though, is still not yet fully exploited. Barriers to the Sdg implementation in Norwegian municipalities include limited capacity, weak political commitment, lacking tools and methods, and sufficient Sdg knowledge. Regional authorities point to the absence of support and guidelines from national authorities as barriers to working with the SDGs. Our analysis show that a lot is going well in Norway and that local and regional governments are concerned and working systematically for a sustainable future. Municipalities and regions contribute substantially to SDG achievements through their regular service delivery, welfare production, planning, and development work. And municipalities and regional authorities have set ambitious climate targets, many which are more ambitious than national goals. A dedicated Sdg indicator set is still lacking for local and regional authorities. This makes it challenging to monitor local progress on the goals and targets. We also find that household poverty and overcrowding is unfortunately increasing. Although falling, school dropout is still too high in Norway, and loneliness amongst Norwegian youth seems to be increasing. The proportion of the working age population who receive different kinds of benefits is high, with an increasing rate among young adults. Norwegian society is still characterized by gender disparity in income, representation, and employment. And despite good infrastructure and a highly educated population, technology is insufficiently used to innovate. Based on findings in the report, KS recommend that the Norwegian government must assure vertical as well as horizontal policy coherence, engage in multi-stakeholder partnerships and uphold multi-level governance, continue to consult local and regional authorities systematically and regularly, provide additional support mechanisms for regional authorities to better engage municipalities for the SDGs and promote innovation for better solutions to common challenges. And on their side, local and regional authorities must continue to localize the SDGs, increase efforts to attract political attention and priority, mobilize and involve key stakeholders, invest in competence and increase knowledge, and better utilize existing tools, guidelines, frameworks, arenas, and networks. So dear friends, KS has prepared this subnational report to map the local and regional government's sustainability work, point out the limitations, and show the successes of the work. It provides many good examples from all over the country. We can now move from knowledge to action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have the honor now to introduce the Minister for Local Governments and Modernization of Norway, Mr. Nikolai Astrup. He prepared a video message to respond to the presentation of the Local Government Associations of Norway. Please, if we can have the video.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to this side event. We know 2/3 of the 169 SDG targets can only be achieved through local and regional action, and I would like to thank UCLG and UN Habitat for their important work on localizing the SDGs and arranging this side event. I know you've assisted Norwegian regional and local municipalities in their effort to implement the SDGs and develop tools for making VSRs and VLRs. I would like to congratulate the Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities, KS, for an excellent voluntary subnational review. The review gives us important insights on how regional and local authorities implement the SDGs in Norway. Ladies and gentlemen, Norway presented our VNR yesterday. An important part of our VNR is contributions from all parts of society, civil society, the private sector, academia, and in particular, regional and local authorities. Regional and local authorities in Norway are responsible for deciding political priorities at the regional and local level, and they are familiar with the opportunities and the challenges of individuals, local organizations, and businesses. They are also responsible for most of the social and physical infrastructure that influences people's lives and local development possibilities. Regional and local authorities are community developers, they're property owners, and employers. We depend on your effort if we are to reach the SDGs by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, Norway has a long history of cooperation between national, regional, and local authorities. They form an integrated component of our multi-level governance model and whole-of-government approach. For the past 2 decades, the government has systematically consulted local and regional authorities, represented by their association, in 3 formal annual meetings on relevant policy, budgets, and legislation. This is also reflected in our first white paper and national action plan on the implementation of the SDGs that was submitted to Parliament this summer. The action plan identifies national targets, possible national indicators and challenges, and will provide a common platform for further action and pave the way for a more holistic approach, coherence, and most importantly, progress. The Ministry for Local Government and Modernization has this summer signed a cooperation agreement with KS on innovation and implementing the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. An important part of this agreement will be to develop indicators on all levels. The Norwegian Action Plan, VNR, and the VSR illustrates the close cooperation between Norwegian national, regional, and local authorities. And I'm confident that this cooperation will be an important contribution to our progress on the SDGs. I hope this VSR will be an inspiration to other regional and local authorities and contribute to further progress on achieving the SDGs, not only in Norway, but also in other countries. I wish you an interesting and successful side event.
Thank you very much. Now we move straight forward to the other side of the world. We go to Cabo Verde. Sorry. We move to Cabo Verde. And sorry for that, but I cannot. And I give the floor to the Secretary General of the General Association of Municipalities of Cabo Verde, Mr. Fernando Borges. And after him, I will give the floor to the Director of Planning, National Planning Department, Mr. Gilson Gomez Pina. Mr. Borges, the floor is yours.
Messieurs, Mesdames, Messieurs les ministres, bonjour. Ici du Cap-Vert, je suis un représentant de l'Association nationale des municipalités du Cap-Vert en tant que secrétaire général. Et on a ici au Cap-Vert, pour donner quelques informations, on a 22 municipalités sur 10 îles dans l'Atlantique. C'est-à-dire qu'on a, disons, un processus de décentralisation vraiment très dynamique et les gouvernements centraux et les gouvernements locaux travaillent ensemble pour qu'on puisse vraiment accélérer les processus de développement durable au Cap-Vert tout en essayant d'atteindre les 17 objectifs du développement durable. Et évidemment qu'il y a des problèmes, des contraintes qu'on va après vous partager avec vous. Et les municipalités, pour une question du développement socio-économique, des fois donnent plus d'attention dans la résolution des problèmes du jour au jour et les objectifs d'une façon ciblée quelquefois restent un peu, disons, non oubliés, mais avec les dynamiques qui doivent être encore plus dans le futur. Bon, pour vous dire que toutes les municipalités ont assumé avec le gouvernement, disons, les 17 objectifs du développement durable ici au Cap-Vert. Et pour qu'on puisse faire cette perception, on a fait une sorte de travail du terrain, une étude qu'on a fait. Et on doit d'abord commencer pour remercier le CGLU qui nous a donné effectivement l'appui pour qu'on puisse mener cette étude-là. Et on va tout simplement vous dire exactement ce qu'on a aperçu sur le terrain. Donc, les municipalités assument, disons, les 17 objectifs et on va les cibler d'une façon, disons, selon la perception qu'on a eue sur le terrain. Donc, en réponse au questionnaire appliqué à distance, les municipalités du Cap-Vert assument l'ODS suivant par ordre d'importance. D'abord, on a l'ODD 8, c'est le travail digne et croissance inclusive. On a une perception de 75%, disons, d'engagement. L'ODD 17, c'est le partenariat. On a 75%, disons, d'engagement au niveau des municipalités. L'ODD 5, égalité des genres, on a 68,8%. Pour l'ODD 1, on a éradiqué la pauvreté, on a 68,8% aussi. Et ODD 11, ville et communauté durable, on a 68%. Vous pouvez passer le slide suivant, s'il vous plaît. En réponse au questionnaire appliqué à distance, les municipalités de Cap-Vert priorisent les ODS suivants selon l'ordre d'importance. Donc, on a commencé pour éradiquer la pauvreté, on a 81% d'engagement, 80,3%. Et les partenariats, on a 75%, égalité des genres, 68,8%, ODD 6, eau potable, 68,8%. On a ODD 8, travail digne et croissance économique inclusive, on a 68,8%. Et ville et communauté durable, c'est l'ODS numéro 11. Vous pouvez suivre les slides, s'il vous plaît. Évidemment, comme j'ai dit au départ, on a des contraintes et des faiblesses des municipalités dans la mise en œuvre des ODD. La plupart des communautés considèrent les ODD comme une référence, mais pas comme une priorité. Cela signifie que les ODD sont insuffisamment insérés, intériorisés en tant que méthodique et outil dans les préparations des planifications de développement local. Déficit institutionnel et formation en matière de planification stratégique pour le développement local. Les plateformes municipales ont été importantes pour la préparation des plans stratégiques du développement municipal durable, mais elles n'ont pas acquis conscience institutionnelle encore. On a encore faible niveau d'intégration du plan stratégique du développement durable au niveau municipal dans les processus de planification du développement global et autonomie des municipalités dans la définition de la mise en œuvre des priorités stratégiques du développement local. L'ODD effectivement mise en œuvre par les municipalités du Cap-Vert, on a, sur la base des réponses au questionnaire qui a été fait au niveau des 22 municipalités, on a confirmé l'ODD qu'on passe à mentionner. L'ODD 1, c'est éradiquer la pauvreté, on a un engagement effectif des municipalités 80,3%. Et l'ODD 6, eau potable, on a 80,3%. Et ODD 11, ville et communauté durable, 81,38%. Les partenariats, 68,8%. Suivant. Bon, les contraintes que nous, on a aperçues dans l'étude qu'on a fait, c'est que les municipalités vis-à-vis de l'administration centrale ont une grande dépendance, surtout au niveau financier. C'est-à-dire que les municipalités encore ont une capacité très faible d'immobilisation des ressources financières, surtout pour mener avant les processus de localisation. Et donc, pour faire ce travail-là, il faut effectivement qu'il y ait un partage plus importante des ressources financières, surtout vis-à-vis du pouvoir local.
Monsieur le secrétaire général, vous avez épuisé les 8 minutes. Vous pouvez conclure, s'il vous plaît, en 2 mots.
2 mots, c'est pour dire qu'effectivement, il y a une coopération très active entre les 10 niveaux gouvernemental ici au Cap-Vert, au niveau central et au niveau local. C'est-à-dire qu'on travaille ensemble pour que vraiment on puisse atteindre, disons, les objectifs des ODD dans le futur.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I will ask now to respond to the presentation of the Secretary General of the National Association of Municipalities, to the Director of Planning and Department, Mr. Gilson Gomez Pina. Mr. Pina, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Edgardo. And first, let's thanks to Mr. Borges for this amazing presentation of the VLR in Cape Verde, and also to congratulate Cape Verde for the production for the first VLR. Actually, we are in second VNR in Cape Verde, and to show this production of the first VLR can show how Cape Verde is engaged with achievement of SDGs, especially at the local level. But I think it's very important to take in consideration Cape Verde as a seat, because let me say, it's quite impossible to achieve SDGs if we think the implementation of the policy at central level. So it's very important to take this in consideration, because look at implementation of the SDGs at a local level can be a way to left no one behind, and also
Sorry, the connections.
Implementation of a policy, implementation of the or policy, and it's very important. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, but the connection is unstable. Maybe if you can use only the voice, maybe will facilitate. It's a pity, but
I take off my video.
Okay, excellent. Go on, please.
Okay. I think it's better now. Okay, so no, I was saying it's very important. It's very important to take in consideration as a country like Cape Verde as a seat. It's very important to think it as a local level, because when we think it at a central level, sometimes you can have some island or special for big cities to be, let me say, more beneficial in terms of implementation of policies, and some island or some municipalities cannot feel this development, since we think the important to think this. And Cape Verde has been done amazing works in terms of this to municipality. For example, as Mr. Borges pointed, there's some surveys the municipality was care about that. For example, agriculture, environment, education, social inclusion. So all these was let's say transferred from central government to the municipality. So this show how Cape Verde is engaged with us. So it's to say it's very important to give opportunity to the municipalities to prepare their policy, and also to make the planification link with the national government level. So we are doing also convergence matrix to see how each municipalities can have potential for achieve some SDGs, and to see the lack when they cannot do, and government will face this, let me say, to cover the policy that municipality cannot do. So it's very important. It's very important to do that. And municipality in Cape Verde, we have been done some relationship between the planification at local level, and also to do the link with this planification, with the planification that we have at central level. So when we do that, we can say all the Cape Verdean and also all the people that live in Cape Verde should, let me say, all stakeholders should take part of the implementation of the SDGs, and also to feel the implementation of the SDGs. So as soon we do that, we can see the way that the SDGs, the localization SDGs, can be part of the implementation of the SDGs in Cape Verde. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gilson Pina, for your speak, and sorry for the quality of the link, but I think the message is get it. Without wasting time, we move now to Indonesia, and I will have the honor to invite Alwis Rustam, Executive Director of the Association of Municipalities of Indonesia, APEXI, to introduce the voluntary subnational review. Thank you. Don't forget that you have 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Ole. Hello, everyone. Good evening from Jakarta to all of you participants of this virtual event, wherever you are. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to be on this forum. My name is Alwis Rustam. I am the Executive Director of the Association of Indonesian Municipalities, or Indonesian acronym named APEXI, and also the Secretary of Board Management of the APEXI. I will present the highlight points of the voluntary subnational review, or VSR, for Indonesian 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, this VSR actually, this is the first time for Indonesia, and is a result of cooperation between APEXI and the other two associations, which are the Association of Provincial Government in Indonesia, or APSI, and the Association of Local Council in the Indonesian, or ADICSI. This review is supported by the UCLG and UCLG of Asia Pacific and the USDGs network in Bandung Institute of Technology, or ITB. And could you please next one? I will use this limited time to share. As we believe that the responsibility toward implementation of SDGs are shared among different levels of government. We do expect that in the attempt to localizing SDGs, collaborative multi-level governance can overcome some institutional barriers and the limit participation. Next one. And the national government of Indonesia has provided many guidances for the local government so that we in subnational level can develop local action plans, forming local task force, as well as receiving technical assistances. More importantly, the national government has also established the scheme for monitoring and evaluations. Next one. And for the subnational level, the government of Indonesia has also established the scheme of for monitoring and evaluation, where the SDGs are localized and implemented in provincial as well as municipalities and regencies levels. And next, however, there's still a lot of improvements are needed for the SDGs monitoring and evaluation. SDGs monitoring and evaluation at the local level, at the as indicators are not always fully aligned with those in the local plans. There is still limited knowledge to meet what is required for the monitoring and evaluation procedures. Also, quite important is the reporting system is still on the manual basis, and the support by the statistical offices are still limited. Okay, next one. As local government association, we are still learning and continue learning about this localizing SDGs implementation in Indonesia. We have been involved together in localized SDGs program that supports the local governments to be better aware of the SDGs, and so that they are able to integrate the SDGs into local development plans, implementation, and also engage multi-stakeholders. The VSR that we develop is a good momentum to strengthen the role of local government associations to support the acceleration of SDGs implementation and to strengthen the social political position at the local level through the participation of the city council, I think. And next one. As now the COVID-19 pandemic has triggered policy responses at the local level, which required local government to refocus their programs and activities to strengthen the healthcare services, to limit mobility, to do distance education, and also ensuring food security, job creation, economic rebound, etc., etc. And it is represented in the goal of number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and also the goal number 8. Yeah, this of course impacting our effort in localizing SDGs as it slow down our progress, because some of programs dedicated to SDGs are postponed or even cancelled, due to mobility restriction or funding limitation and reallocation due to the pandemic. Okay, next one. Despite, next slide, please. Despite the impact from the pandemic, we are positive the local government are doing the best, their best and progressing in the SDGs implementation, especially since integration of SDGs into local plans have been intensively executed. We are recognized that local leadership matter actually in determining the success of localizing SDGs, and also collaboration with non-state actors showcased as SDGs best practices are also essential, in which also has been identified in the VSR and VNR of Indonesia. As recommendation from the VSR, we'd like to see that there is a wider recognition that local government can take strategic roles in implementing SDGs, allowing local interpretation and local enabling environment in order to reach the community they usually serve. Local governments and its associations can be more proactive in exchange the practices and in municipal province municipality agencies collaboration. We also expect that local government associations will engage in advocacy and dialogues to strengthen the multi-level government policy design and coherence to be better align the SDGs with local plans and to connect with intensively with the national government. And I think we'd like to see that advocacy and dialogue between executive and legislative decision makers as well of local government continue to take place and strengthen the shape SDGs implementation to truly reach its intended purposes. We see that multi-level multi-stakeholder involvement at the local level are essential, and we would like to see more there. Finally, we expect the local government representative and its association who bring the collective voices for local government can be part of the national coordination mechanism for SDGs implementation. Those are, I think. Thanks for having me, and back to our great moderator. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Executive Director. And we will stride forward to the Miss Bibi Yulaswati. I hope I pronounce it well. That is the head of the National SDG Secretariat of Bappenas, the Minister of Planning in charge of reporting process in Indonesia. Miss Bibi Yulaswati, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for having me in this important forum, and thank you also for Mr. Rutam for presenting the VSR. The formulation of Indonesian VNR of this year has been very inclusive by involving all stakeholders known as a participatory platform of SDGs, government, philanthropists, and businesses, academia, CSOs, and of course the media. The process of the VNR development also considered the VSR, which based on the survey conducted in the 13 provinces, 9 cities, and 3 regencies, of course, involving the Indonesian District Government Association, Indonesian Provincial Government Association, and also Indonesian District Parliament Association. From the CSR, we could have a new knowledge on subnational government's performance, particularly on the implementation of SDGs, how they set the priorities for SDGs aligned development, and of course, level of their understanding of the SDGs. Besides the VSR, the process of Indonesian 2021 VNR also accommodates the results from the voluntary local review conducted by the Surabaya municipality. This is the second biggest city in the Indonesia. So in addition to the subnational commitment on the SDGs implementation, this process has been encouraged by the integration of SDGs into the midterm development planning of the city government. So the VSR and the VLR was really the first for Indonesia. Along with the decade of action, it is an effort to localize the SDGs in Indonesia, which in the process involve of the adaptation, implementation, and of course, monitoring of the SDGs at the local levels. It is involved the mainstreaming the target and indicators of the SDGs in the planning documents and also the budget. And then strengthening the local voices at the national level, particularly in the monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. Support of local governments, including the villages in the achievement of the SDGs national targets with many bottom-up activities, and of course the program and projects. And try to internalize the SDGs principles in all business processes. The progress of the localizing SDGs in Indonesia is actually quite varied. Some challenges include different level of understanding, different level of leadership or ownership, and different capabilities, particularly in the financing. Due to the pandemic that brings risk to the achievement of SDGs, the collaboration with local government in the future is much more important. Namely, first, in the develop innovation capacity to build the resilience, particularly in the review and build back better, and how to balance the social, environment, economy, and the good governance. And due to the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and of course, ambiguity of the future, that may be the much bigger shock that we have to face, we need to find a way to keep the adaptive way, like trying to find a new way of doing things, thinking the unthinkable, and also expect the unexpectable. And on the preparedness, of course, we need to improve all the databases on the regional governments or the local governments, and also improve the result base, which is more on the research base. And lastly, in the digital literacy and the social capital, I think those will accelerate the collaboration at networks with many local governments in Indonesia. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your suggestion and recommendation, Mr. Yulaswati. And we have a problem with the mayor of Acapulco that is representing the National Conference of Municipalities of Mexico. We're trying to sort out these difficulties, and if not, we will give the room to the Secretary General of FLACMA. But let me, for the moment, if it's possible, give the floor to Sweden in the time that we try to sort out these difficulties. Ms. Carola Gunnarsson, Mayor of Sala, could you please take the floor now?
Thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. I will present some conclusions from the Swedish voluntary subnational review led by Salar. Next, please, if you can have my PowerPoint.
Yeah, give us a few seconds because there was a change in the order. Then the colleagues.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I would like to start by telling you a little about the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions, because that's a member and employer organization for all the municipalities and regions in Sweden. And we provide knowledge, advice, and service, and we strengthen municipalities and regions in their mission of developing welfare services for all citizens. Next, please. I also would like to say some words about the Swedish model of governance as a background, because Sweden has a very decentralized model of governance in which its 290 municipalities and 21 regions have a very broad mission. There is a long tradition of local responsibility and decision-making in Sweden. The model of local self-governance, which is a part of the constitution, means that municipalities and regions have great freedom of action in carrying out their mission, coupled with great responsibility. And the municipalities and regions finance their activities via taxes, user charges, and government grants. Next, please. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted many challenges and has, among others, shown us that an unequal distribution of good health in the population risks weakening our society. In this report, Salar has identified 6 areas of great importance for people's and society's resilience to new pandemics and crises. And we highlight participation and trust, education and training, work and unemployment, isolation and loneliness, physical activity and healthcare. Next, please. Our impression is that each year more and more municipalities and regions strengthen their work on sustainable development. There are many good examples of methods and ways of working, some of which are shared in the report. In the report, you can also find summaries from 4 voluntary local reviews from the city of Helsingborg, Malmö, Uppsala, and Stockholm. To reduce inequalities, we need to see clearly what inequalities we must deal with in the society. We need to address the urgent problems, but above all, we must work preventively. The COVID-19 crisis has reinforced challenges and shown our society's vulnerability. Results in different municipalities vary. There are different conditions in large cities, rural areas, suburbs, and smaller communities. This creates various capacity to implement the SDGs. It's very important that for Agenda 2030 to become part of the municipalities or regions' development strategies, it must become an integral part of the overall governance and management system. We also think that local self-government creates opportunities, but we will underline that we need to collaborate locally, regionally, nationally, and globally. Next, please. In the wake of the pandemic, several commentators have argued for more centralization and less self-government at local and regional level. But we from Salar, we are convinced that the decentralized system plays an important role for democracy. Local level is closest to the citizens, and citizens are close to the decisions and can exert influence and hold decision makers to account. To build inclusive societies built on equality, we must include people. We need to use civil dialogues, and we need to build democratic spaces. A decentralized system must have fair conditions to maintain its missions. Municipalities and regions need reliable and long-term economic planning conditions. We must build sustainable societies where we harness the power and creativity of every human being. Next, please. SALAR gives support to its members for the implementation of the SDGs. The support includes, among others, Local Sweden, that is a communication and training project supported by the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. More than half of the municipalities and almost all the regions are involved in this project, and it's very, very successful. We also have, from SALAR point of view, focus on governance and leadership, including the use of key figures to measure effects and developments. It is important to support municipalities and regions in integrating work on sustainable development and the SDGs in their regional governments, but we need to follow up. We need to report, and we need to communicate the effects of the work. We ask for the national level to recognize the important role of the local level in implementing the SDGs. And we think that it's also important that the local and regional level is involved in a better way in the work with the voluntary national reviews. Next, please. Finally, I would like to say that we must work to build sustainable societies where democracy, human rights, and gender equality are the foundation and the solid ground that we build upon. We need political strategies for this, but above all, we need a political will to change, we need tools, and we need to act. Our networks are important in this work, and the voluntary reports are valuable both as indicators and experiences to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. President. And following the same methodology, I would like to give the floor now to Ms. Mia Crawford, Deputy Director of the Global Agenda for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Please,
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you so much to USLG and UN Habitat for organizing these days, but also USLG for your coordination efforts with the voluntary subnational reviews, and congratulations to all those who have been involved in this year's voluntary subnational reports. We are, of course, from the Swedish government extremely grateful for the work that the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions have done with the Swedish subnational review. This is an excellent complement to the voluntary national review, which we will be presenting later today in HLPF. So I hope you will tune in to listen to that presentation. I would like to comment a little bit on the report that we've just heard Carola presenting, and perhaps lift some areas where I think is really unique in how some of the local authorities and regions have really addressed the 2030 agenda. And then I would like to say perhaps a few words about how to really facilitate this the linkages between the local, regional, and national, and especially in these kind of review processes. But first of all, I think one of the critical elements that I have seen in many of the Swedish municipalities, not only those who have presented local reviews this year, but also in discussions with municipalities around in Sweden, is that they have really taken the 2030 agenda to heart. And they have decided that it shouldn't be a side project, but rather integrated it, mainstream it, make it part of your ordinary processes. It might not sound so sexy and fun, but it is critical. And I think I applaud many of the successful Swedish municipalities for really putting the 2030 agenda into their budgets. And Salar is doing an excellent work in trying to support and facilitate this. I'm not sure if you can hear me now because the screen is frozen.
Yes, it's okay. We can hear you. We lost the... We lost it. What a pity. Miss Mia Crawford, we lost her, then waiting if she can link it.
I'm back.
Ah,
am I back?
Please.
Yes, sorry
on.
that you lost me. Yes, I lost some time, so I skipped that. But I think this is a critical element that I would like to lift, that I have seen is about making the 2030 agenda part of your core steering activities. That's one thing. But then I wanted to move to this, having facilitated the exchange between the national review and the local reviews and the subnational reviews this year. I think one critical element that we see in this work has also been that we have a shared goal. And in December last year, Sweden had adopted a bill in its parliament on the 2030 agenda, just to create that shared. Now, am I lost again?
You are there. I hear you. We hear you. Go
yes,
on.
You can hear me. Okay, I will talk and you may not see me then. Sorry about all this. This shared goal, I think, is extremely important because it creates the long-term vision for the work of the 2030 agenda. It's a shared vision, both at the national level and at the local and regional level. Another important message I would like to put across is that it's important that the national government really realize and value all the important work that is done locally. As Carola was saying, most of our implementation of the 2030 agenda happens locally. And so therefore, the local authorities and regions have an important role to play. And it's important that the national level give trust and also value the important work that is being done locally. I also think that when you start off this kind of review process, whether it's the local review process or sub-national reviews or national reviews, you have to have the political endorsement, the buy-in from the political level, but also the inclusion of many stakeholders. And in Sweden, we have a whole of society approach to our implementation. And that in itself also facilitates both the local, regional and national level integration in all of our processes. And then I'd like to end up with just saying that it's important to build this kind of mechanism for coordination, for trust building, and to support each other, because conducting these local reviews and also the national views or the subnational reviews has been a partly new journey for us. And then it's important to have mechanisms to talk to each other, create trust and learn from each other, so that this really is a learning process that does not end with a report, but actually moves forward and something to build onto and others can learn from. I'm very sorry for all the technical difficulties, but I hope you could hear me anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was an excellent response to the presentation of the president of the Salar Association. Then now we move as I promised you, to Mexico. We move again to the other side of the world, and it's a pity that the mayor of Acapulco cannot do it. She tried to connect, but it was very problematic. Then I am very grateful to the Secretary General of LACMA, Mr. Sergio Arredondo, that he can jump on this presentation and introduce us to the subnational report of Mexico. Please, Sergio, you have the floor.
Muy buenos días, saludo desde mi país, desde México, a este importante evento, con el afecto y el respeto a las autoridades, la directora general de ONU Habitat, mi secretaria general Emilia Sáenz y todas las autoridades y organismos que participan en esta sesión. Y una disculpa de parte de la alcaldesa de Acapulco, que es la presidenta de la Conferencia Nacional de Municipios de México, que ha tenido problemas técnicos que veo que no son limitativos de mi país. Quiero compartirles muy brevemente la experiencia importante que hemos tenido en estos últimos meses, en estos últimos 6 meses, con el liderazgo y la coordinación de CGLU. Hemos impulsado en mi país, en México, un proceso que me parece virtuoso. Está buscando consolidar una estrategia que nos permita involucrar a los gobiernos locales, los municipales y de los gobiernos estatales, todos los gobiernos locales, en este proceso de trabajo que nos permita hacer más efectivo las transformaciones que tienen que tener nuestras ciudades en el ámbito comunitario para la implementación de los ODS. 3 cosas destacaría inicialmente. Primero, que ha habido un gran trabajo colectivo, decía yo, con el liderazgo de CGLU, donde han participado las entidades del gobierno nacional, donde han participado entidades internacionales como GIZ, y donde los gobiernos locales, a través de la Conferencia de Municipios de México, la Federación Latinoamericana de Municipios, la Conferencia Nacional de Gobernadores de México, todos juntos, haciendo un gran equipo, hemos logrado dar avances en estos últimos meses. Esto ante los retos estructurales que vive el mundo, pero también México. La coyuntura sanitaria y los impactos económicos en la calidad de vida de nuestras ciudades dificulta a los gobiernos locales asumir responsabilidades, compromisos y acciones más consistentes. Particularmente en México hemos vivido hace poco más de un mes una elección histórica donde en los últimos 100 años es la elección más importante por el número de autoridades locales que se han electo, que se han renovado. Además de que por primera vez en México también existe reelección y los periodos de gobierno de las autoridades locales han podido ampliarse. Esto en un universo complejo de México de más de 2.400 municipios, 32 estados y más de 120 millones de habitantes. Quiero compartirles algunos de los resultados de los trabajos que hemos obtenido en la preparación del informe subnacional acá en México. Primero, destacar los avances. Hemos hecho un trabajo, decía, de coordinación muy importante en las 32 regiones, en los 32 estados de mi país, de México. La mayor parte de esos gobiernos estatales han impulsado, vale la pena destacarlo, importantes reformas a sus legislaciones de planeación, a sus planes estatales del desarrollo, y con ello han establecido plataformas de seguimiento, incluso a nivel presupuestal. Esta dinámica de reformas institucionales ya está permeando incluso en el ámbito municipal, en los 2.400 municipios del país. Tenemos un órgano, el Consejo Nacional de la Agenda 2030, que ha aprobado, por ejemplo, la creación de un comité a nivel de gobiernos subnacionales que permita la participación con voz y con voto de los gobiernos locales en las decisiones de la implementación de los ODS. Esto nos está permitiendo, desde luego, que la transversalización en los temas de sostenibilidad nos permitan desarrollar políticas públicas a nivel de cada una de las regiones o entidades federativas. Hemos logrado ya que en este proceso de trabajo 2021, 6 estados y 2 municipios abanderen, lideren, realicen procesos que permitan después reproducirse virtuosamente en el resto de los gobiernos locales de nuestro país. Hay avances entonces importantes. Por el otro lado también encontramos desafíos, problemas, inercias que tenemos que vencer. En primer lugar, yo destacaría el tema de la coordinación entre los 3 órdenes de gobierno que existe en nuestro país. Tenemos que trabajar aún mucho para que al trabajar en la implementación de la Agenda 2030 lo hagamos en forma armónica los 3 órdenes de gobierno. En México existe un sistema nacional de planeación que es el espacio de coordinación multinivel, pero que tenemos que hacer que sea más efectiva la colaboración entre los 3 órdenes de gobierno. En materia fiscal hay desafíos particularmente importantes. Tenemos que conectar la capacidad de generar recursos de los gobiernos locales para que puedan direccionarse esos financiamientos a la implementación de los objetivos del desarrollo sostenible. Eso no lo estamos logrando aún. Más aún, los gobiernos locales tenemos la demanda de que en los últimos años hemos visto reducir los recursos, contrario a una tendencia que llevábamos en las últimas décadas en México para incrementar los recursos a los gobiernos nacionales. Por eso, tanto los estados como los municipios tenemos que trabajar aún mucho para fortalecer nuestras capacidades institucionales y de generación de recursos para que ello nos sea una palanca, un instrumento para mejorar la localización de los ODS en el ámbito local. También tenemos que trabajar mucho para que podamos generar información, mejor información y apoyar estos procesos de evaluación de la Agenda 2030. Algunas recomendaciones se han derivado del trabajo que hemos hecho estos últimos meses. Por un lado, tenemos claro que tenemos que mejorar los órganos, los espacios, los foros de implementación de la agenda en muchos estados. Lo hemos hecho ya en 24 de las entidades federativas de mi país, pero nos hace falta aún fortalecer esos órganos de seguimiento y de implementación. En materia financiera, tenemos que mejorar nuestros sistemas locales de generación de recursos para aumentar la capacidad de financiamiento a través de las diferentes bolsas presupuestales que existen en México para fortalecer los ODS. Los estados y municipios tenemos que coordinarnos mejor para mejorar nuestros catastros y en consecuencia mejorar la asignación de recursos. Termino con algunas recomendaciones que han derivado del proceso de trabajo colegiado que mencionaba. Tenemos que avanzar para que la Agenda 2030 en México nos permita establecer mecanismos novedosos de financiamiento, como las asociaciones públicas privadas, como las intermunicipalidades, para generar estímulos financieros que generen riqueza, recursos para mejorar la localización de los ODS. Tenemos que profesionalizar a nuestros cuadros técnicos a nivel municipal. Tenemos que impulsar un programa que acompañe la localización en los 2,400 municipios de los ODS, intercambiando experiencias, datos, información, compartiendo recursos y compartiendo tecnologías también. Termino mencionando que los estados y los municipios en México han contribuido, sí, ya en este proceso 2021, pero que tenemos que mejorar ese trabajo de coordinación. Lo estamos haciendo, creo, muy bien. Reitero, con el liderazgo de ODS que ha estado a través de Edgardo Blinsky y su equipo de la Secretaría General Emilia Sainz, colaborando y coordinando este proceso en mi país. Creo que estamos en el camino correcto y que podemos tener expectativas optimistas respecto a que este proceso se reproduzca en los próximos años, incluso permee en los 33 países de América Latina. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad de compartir estos comentarios.
Muchísimas gracias, Sergio. I will give the floor now to Alfredo González Reyes, responsible of the Agenda 2030. But nevertheless, I will also acknowledge the work done by Adi that contribute to this report. Alfredo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Edgardo. Thank you, colleagues. Hola, Sergio. Muchas gracias. Buenos días. Es un gusto estar aquí. Yo creo que lo que Sergio destaca es muy importante en términos de que estos informes subnacionales no solamente muestran resultados muy concretos y permiten generar recomendaciones, identificar posibles rutas, sino además son en sí mismos procesos que desatan intercambios, aprendizaje, imaginación compartida, trabajo colectivo. Entonces, creo que es más allá del producto final, si le quisiéramos llamar así al informe, creo que un gran valor de este informe en un país tan grande y tan complejo como México y como cualquier otro, por supuesto, es precisamente servir como medio de diálogo. A veces en un país con tantas diferencias entre regiones, lugares, poblaciones, niveles en distintos indicadores, nos cuesta trabajo dialogar de una manera, digamos, constructiva, que sea útil para todas al mismo tiempo. Entonces, creo que es una de las mayores virtudes y me gusta mucho la manera en la que Sergio lo describe con sus propias palabras. Hay otra cosa que me parece importante es la mención que hace Sergio sobre los retos estructurales que hacen difícil tomar acciones que sean completamente consistentes como nos gustaría, como nos enseñaron a tantos de nosotros en la universidad, en nuestros libros de texto, donde nos enseñaban que la política pública es algo donde le jalas una palanquita aquí y necesariamente sucede de manera lineal otra cosa en otro lugar. Yo creo que agregaría en ese sentido que no hay que olvidar que México, como decía Sergio, es un país de más de 120 millones de habitantes, pero que es uno de los más desiguales de una de las dos regiones más desiguales del mundo en términos de ingreso per cápita. Donde todavía hace un par de años, con nuestra última medición en 2018, más de 50 millones de personas de esos 127 estaban en condiciones de pobreza. Entonces, donde hay un norte y un occidente que están muy ligados a la prosperidad que ha generado el comercio en Norteamérica, pero donde hay un sur y un sureste que apenas en el último par de años estamos tratando de integrar de manera más activa a esa prosperidad. Porque ha estado siempre desligado de la dinámica comercial, regional e internacional. Entonces, creo que eso nos ayuda a entender justamente muchos de los retos que ya Sergio mencionaba o sugería. En términos del papel de los gobiernos y su coordinación, creo que una cosa importante que describe Sergio de alguna manera es la necesidad de que estados y municipios vayan, digamos, asumiendo, estén tratando siempre cada vez más de asumir mayor responsabilidad. En México, como en muchos países, es una ya vieja historia, un viejo sueño, que los gobiernos municipales puedan recaudar más, que los gobiernos estatales puedan recaudar mejor y vincularse de una manera más eficiente con la federación. Hay que recordar que nuestro país es tiene este sistema de interacción entre gobiernos nacionales y locales, con una división muy clara de responsabilidades, pero con una solidaridad muy institucionalizada, incluyendo en términos de la distribución de los recursos nacionales, que está asociada a una regla establecida en la ley, y que se necesita un esfuerzo bien grande para coordinarse y tratar de hacer mejor esa regla. Quizá terminaría diciendo que este informe subnacional abre un montón de oportunidades de diálogo en ese sentido, de coordinación entre niveles de gobierno, que el informe nacional voluntario se alimentó directamente de ese informe subnacional. Yo también quiero hacer un reconocimiento del trabajo de Adi Carrera, fue espectacular, pero también del trabajo de todas las autoridades estatales y municipales y de las alcaldías que participaron. Yo quisiera que a partir de aquí generáramos una agenda de trabajo para impulsar de una manera mejor, distinta, un poquito ajustada en este nuevo contexto que tenemos por los impactos de COVID, para impulsar la Agenda 2030 en todos los lugares, pero sobre todo en esos nuevos estados, en esos nuevos lugares donde hemos tenido ya elecciones recientemente. Ahí lo dejo, gracias, buen día.
Muy amable, gracias Alfredo. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for interrupting, but we are late. We have the late, and some of the speakers need to leave. Now, I have a problem with Tunisia. Tunisia, you are still there. You can, les collègues de Tunisie, le président de l'association, vous pouvez intervenir maintenant, s'il vous plaît? Et ça serait, je voudrais donner la parole à ce moment-là à Monsieur Adnen Boussida, maire des Roades et président de l'Association nationale des communes de Tunisie. Vous avez la parole, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup, chère Madame Sayez, chers conférenciers. Je suis vraiment désolé de encore résumer le résumé de notre rapport. Vu mon engagement, je devrais partir dans quelques minutes pour l'Assemblée des représentants du peuple. Donc, un petit rappel qu'aujourd'hui, la Tunisie est constituée de 350 communes dont les premières élections communales libres et transparentes ont eu lieu en mars 2018, ainsi que l'adoption du code de collectivité locale qui ont permis une communalisation intégrale des territoires, avec la création de 86 nouvelles communes et l'extension de 188 communes, aussi bien au niveau de la surface qu'au niveau de la population. Nous sommes heureux de vous présenter notre premier rapport sur l'Sdg, conduit par la FNCT en collaboration avec nos partenaires CGLU et CGLU Afrique, présenté aujourd'hui. Et donc une première pour la FNCT qui est consciente plus que jamais que le développement durable et solidaire doit être une priorité pour les communes. Donc ce rapport modeste et montre que notre étude que nous avons pu conduire avec l'appui, comme je vais le dire, de nos partenaires, est basée sur une représentativité scientifique, un échantillonnage aléatoire à propos des grandes communes, moyennes communes et nouvelles communes nouvellement créées, donc petites communes. Donc un questionnaire aux communes sur le rôle de collectivité territoriale dans la localisation des objectifs de développement. Donc 80% des communes qui ont répondu au questionnaire pour ce modeste travail, une mémoire institutionnelle en connectant certains résultats attendus, réalisés. Donc, certains indicateurs de contrôle au niveau communal ont été pris en considération. Donc, 68% des communes connaissent les ODD et contribuent à leur réalisation, mais sans toujours le savoir, car leur champ d'intervention entre dans le thématique des ODD. Certaines communes appuyées par les agences de développement ont adopté de politiques mises en œuvre. Donc, le deuxième indicateur, c'est la coordination institutionnelle au sein des communes. Donc, nous connaissons très bien que certaines commissions municipales qui mettent en œuvre des ODD en Tunisie, Dans la commission de la propriété, la santé, l'environnement, il y a 16,27% des communes dans ce sens. Les travaux de l'aménagement urbain et territorial, donc 13,22% des communes. Les affaires sociales, l'emploi des personnes sans soutien, handicapés et autres, donc 6,10%. La démocratie participative et la gouvernance ouverte, 4,7%. Donc, certaines communes ont mis en place une commission spécialisée en développement durable, d'autres sont en train de le faire et d'autres sont pratiquement incapables de le faire. Donc, il y a une mise en œuvre et on a fait un suivi d'évaluation de ce rapport. Donc, toutes les communes ne peuvent pas satisfaire aujourd'hui les 7 ODD et les 169 cibles dans leur champ d'action. Certaines communes nécessitent une collaboration pour le pouvoir central, même pour certains ODD et cibles couvertes. Toutefois, il y a lieu de signaler que certains ODD ou certaines cibles entrent aussi dans un champ d'action municipal de certaines communes qui nécessitent une collaboration, ou plutôt une intervention, aussi bien d'entreprises publiques que des entreprises dans le secteur privé. Donc, pour une meilleure mise en œuvre par ces communes, les 16 ODD et cibles prioritaires qui ont été mis en œuvre par ces communes, l'objectif 12, donc établir des modes de consommation et de production durables. L'objectif 6, garantir l'accès à tous à l'eau et à l'assainissement et assurer une gestion durable de ressources en eau, ce qui est très important surtout chez les nouvelles accès à tous à des services énergétiques fiables, durables et modernes. La promotion également de l'énergie renouvelable, faire en sorte que les villes et les établissements humains soient ouverts à tous. Le cible aussi, l'objectif 8, promouvoir une croissance économique soutenue, partagée, durable, le plein emploi productif et du travail décent. Il y a des difficultés, des obstacles rencontrés par ces communes lors de leur plan des ODD. Donc, on a 79% des communes estiment que le soutien est insuffisant de la part des gouvernements nationaux en termes d'accompagnement administratif et de soutien financier. 75% des communes souffrent des ressources humaines inadéquates ou faibles capacités d'encadrement. Nous connaissons très bien aujourd'hui que nous avons dans les 350 communes presque 33 000 entre cadres et employés dont le taux d'encadrement est très faible en Tunisie, il est inférieur à 7%. Donc, nous trouvons également 67% des communes qui déplorent des ressources financières insuffisantes, surtout dues à la pandémie et à la pandémie de 2020 et de 2021 qui continue actuellement. Donc, nous avons une baisse des ressources suite à la COVID-19, une baisse des ressources financières locales, bien entendu. 50% des communes regrettent aujourd'hui la faible coordination et une faible coordination entre les niveaux du gouvernement et le chevauchement des responsabilités et coordination qui est très difficile entre le gouvernement et la décentralisation. Donc, il y a aussi la coordination avec le national qui n'est pas toujours au rendez-vous. Ça, malheureusement, le cadre institutionnel de coordination nationale du suivi des ODD n'implique pas aujourd'hui la FNCT en tant que représentante des communes. Au niveau du comité de village, au niveau de comité de pilotage, d'action ou de concertation locale sur les ODD engagés par le ministère, nous avons déjà écrit au ministère dans ce sens. 90% des communes affirment n'avoir participé à aucun mécanisme national de suivi et de coordination des processus depuis 2019 jusqu'à toujours. Toutefois, il y a eu la participation des communes pour l'élaboration du plan quinquennal de développement régional tel que le gouvernement 2010 aujourd'hui. De faibles réalisations et l'intégration des communes dans la stratégie nationale demeurent très faibles. Aujourd'hui, nous avons des promotions des communes face aux défis de l'inclusion. Donc, 82% des communes demandent davantage de soutien de la part des gouvernements nationaux, par exemple en termes d'accompagnement administratif et de soutien financier, de renforcement des compétences et de ressources humaines. 77% sont en faveur d'un renforcement de la coordination entre le national et le local. 77% plaident pour davantage de ressources humaines ou de capacités. Donc, si le développement durable aujourd'hui ne peut être réalisé sans une transformation significative de la manière dont nous construisons et gérons nos espaces urbains tels que l'ODD 11, force est de constater que peu de communes sur les 350 disposent aujourd'hui de plans de développement local. Donc, plus que jamais, le développement durable et solidaire de nos territoires doit être une priorité pour la résilience face à la pandémie. Et pour une réelle politique d'inclusion, les communes doivent aujourd'hui avoir plus de moyens humains et financiers. Pour cela que la stratégie de la plaidoyer de la FNCT dans ce sens, après avoir fait une concertation dans tous les, à propos de la mise en œuvre de la décentralisation sur une concertation qui a englobé les 350 communes et les 24 gouvernorats avec des ateliers de discussion directe. Donc, le résultat, c'est l'amélioration et le changement de 22 amendements au code de collectivité pour une décentralisation réelle. Donc, une révision de la loi électorale pour une stabilisation des conseils municipaux, donc dont nous avons 50 presque, il en a eu 50 dissolutions depuis 2018, l'adoption des décrets de mise en œuvre de la décentralisation, nous avons uniquement aujourd'hui 14 sur 32 qui ont été promulgués, une réforme de la fiscalité locale,
Monsieur le Président,
le contrôle a priori sur les budgets municipaux est importante. Donc,
Monsieur le Président,
oui.
Oui, non, et si vous pouvez conclure, s'il vous plaît, parce que vous avez dépassé le temps.
D'accord, donc je vais directement conclure, parce que pour ne pas être... voilà. Donc, les recommandations de la FNCT aujourd'hui, c'est examiner les solutions proposées par les communes. Comment? Vous m'entendez?
Oui, on vous entend. Si vous pouvez deux mots pour conclure.
Voilà, donc c'est intégrer à notre plaidoyer la budgétisation allouée spécifiquement aux CDD pour les allocations en Tunisie. Donc, seuls nous comptons sur la concertation entre le pouvoir local et les représentants et le pouvoir central pour être plus efficace au service de nos concitoyens pour un développement local inclusif et durable. La FNCT s'est engagée à faire entendre et à respecter les voix des communes et à mettre en lumière l'action des communes. Ce rapport participe pleinement à notre stratégie en faveur des intérêts de communes. C'est en bref, voici le résultat de notre rapport. Merci de votre attention, merci de votre écoute.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je sais que vous avez des engagements, donc on vous libère puisque vous devez partir à l'Assemblée nationale. Et je ne sais pas si Messier, il était... Ok, si vous pouvez dire, s'il vous plaît, deux mots, parce qu'on est très en retard, donc et ça serait important si vous pouvez limiter votre intervention, dire quelques mots pour souligner en tant qu'ex-ministre votre vision de ces rapports infranationaux. Merci. On ne vous entend pas, Monsieur le ministre. On ne vous entend pas.
Voilà.
Merci monsieur et pour les organisateurs qui m'ont accordé cette intervention. Je ne reviens pas sur ce qui a été dit par monsieur le président de la fédération. Une intervention sur 3 points. Le premier point, c'est que la Tunisie, comme vous le savez, a réalisé des avancées au niveau politique, de la démocratie, de la l'égalité des sexes. Toutefois, la situation économique et sociale reste difficile. Les indicateurs de la capacité du citoyen à participer à la vie politique, la liberté d'expression, d'association est passée de 10% en 2010 à pratiquement 55% en 2015. Donc, c'est une situation plus ou moins favorable. Seulement, à partir de quelques années, les dernières années, il y a une crise politique qui fait en sorte qu'elle retarde beaucoup de transformations, beaucoup de changements au niveau de la question de la décentralisation. Et cette situation, elle a retardé le processus de décentralisation attendu longtemps par les villes. Et là, je remercie la représentante des salaires lorsqu'elle disait que le rôle des communes et des régions est très important dans la lutte et dans le travail au niveau de ces ODD. Donc, il y a des problèmes énormes qui surgissent en Tunisie actuellement, la dégradation des ressources en eau, la gestion insuffisante des déchets, la pollution de l'air, la désertification, la dégradation du littoral, tous ces problèmes pèsent sur notre intervention. Le deuxième point, c'est un exercice très intéressant que je menais pour voir les écarts et les reculs entre les ODD et les réalités de terrain. Il ressort de l'analyse des 5 années de mise en œuvre des ODD des résultats suivants. Cette analyse est basée sur 3 études. La première étude intitulée « Analyse des lacunes au niveau des indicateurs relatifs aux ODD ». Globalement, il ressort de cette étude que sur les 244 indicateurs, soit un gap et 90 indicateurs ont été collectés, soit 56%. En vue de combler cet écart, il ressort l'urgence de mise à niveau d'un système statistique pour qu'il intègre les indicateurs ODD. La deuxième étude, qui s'intitule « Analyse rapide intégrée », elle analyse les écarts entre les cibles ODD et les objectifs de développement, tels que définis dans notre plan de développement. De cette analyse, il porte sur 105 cibles ODD, ressortent 3 gaps. 21 cibles ODD relatives à la vie aquatique, la vie terrestre, la production, l'éducation ne sont pas totalement incluses dans le plan de développement. 84 autres cibles couverts par les objectifs stratégiques ne sont pas encore parallèlement alignés. Et l'étude, elle poursuit l'analyse de ces indicateurs. La troisième étude, intitulée « Analyse rapide intégrée de la Constitution et des conventions ratifiées », on remarque que 65% des engagements uniquement sont respectés. Le troisième point, brièvement, la crise sanitaire, elle a dévoilé, elle a révélé beaucoup de certitudes. La certitude, c'est que devant l'incapacité ou l'arrêt de l'opération, plutôt de la machine État, le rôle des associations et des communes a été très important pour remplacer cette lacune.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Merci beaucoup, monsieur le ministre.
Je donne les conclusions. Je donne uniquement les conclusions.
S'il vous plaît, 30 secondes.
Les conclusions, la mise en place d'un cadre institutionnel pour piloter les ODD, sensibiliser et engager plus de participants, organiser des ateliers pour relever les défis, plutôt revoir les systèmes de production de données et surtout avoir une base de données statistiques pour bien analyser les indicateurs. Voilà, ce sont là les recommandations brièvement. Merci.
Merci beaucoup à la FNCT, merci beaucoup, monsieur le ministre. Et sans plus attendre, I move now to Germany, and I don't know if Sabina is still there to take the floor, or if not, Mark, if you can introduce the BSRs and your comments for Germany. Sabine, you are there, please. We hear you to introduce the BSR in Germany.
Thank you. It's my turn now, Edgardo?
Yes, please.
Thank
on.
you so much. Dear chairs, dear excellences, dear all. So we are happy to present our municipal contribution to the German Voluntary National Review. Could you please show the slide first? But we are very busy, so I can also present without a slide if you like. So I want to make clear that the German contribution to the German VNR is not a voluntary subnational review. It's a municipal review without federal states, because in Germany, so federal states belong to the subnational level. So this is different. And our contribution now is integral part of the voluntary national review. We are very happy about that. And it's a review of about 50 pages, and you can read then an executive summary. This is what you can find within, but it's linked to the long version. And it's maybe about some milestones on the way to the municipal contribution to the German voluntary national review. So it was very sporty. In December last year, we launched our second edition of the Sdg Portal. Mark later will explain it a little bit deeper, but our portal consists of 120 indicators, and nearly 60 indicated German municipal indicators related to the SDGs are free, open, and available for all cities with more than 5,000 inhabitants. And this portal, this edition, Sdg Indicators for Municipalities in Germany, is also the base of our municipal review. From here, we started an analysis and identified new and interesting trends. So in February this year, we agreed with our ministries for environment and development cooperation that we will be integral part. And then we started with support of Research Institute for our Institute for Urban Studies, the research, and finalized our finalized our long version by the end of April, and in a few days. So we brought the executive summary for the voluntary national review, and this was led by DST. And now is the moment, Edgardo and all, to present some key findings at the high-level political forum, and we are very happy about it. So just a few seconds about the content of our municipal contribution. So first is to state the Sdg implementation in German municipalities. So sustainability and monitoring of sustainability has a long tradition in Germany, and important is, of course, that we try to enable our member cities, and that we relate municipal sustainability strategies to the national frameworks. And we also launched our 2030 agenda for sustainable development, shaping sustainability at the municipal level. So this is also enabling for our members to relate their activities to the Agenda 2030. And one very important element, of course, are different programs for Sdg localization. This is not just our portal. There are many other programs, and we describe deeply how the Sdg portal works in Germany. So this portal is also copied and pasted, let's say, to other countries. So it's well known in Italy now, and I hope in near future also it will be published in Morocco. And last chapter is that we perform voluntary local reviews of some members. So these are the cities of Mannheim, Stuttgart, and Bonn. And now I will leave it to Mark Wolinda from Bertelsmann Stiftung to present some key findings of our municipal contribution. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Sabina, and sorry to be late. Mark, you have the floor now to conclude very quickly on the key learnings.
Yeah, thank you, Edgardo. I try my best. Yeah, in the following minutes, I will summarize some key findings of our research, and I will show some key facts about the Sdg portal for German municipalities. We are convinced that German municipalities have a comprehensive tool set to manage their sustainability processes now. So with the Sdg indicators, they could check where they currently stand on the path to the sustainable development as a base for developing a local sustainability strategy. In the same way, they can continuously monitor the implementation of their strategies using the indicators and data in the Sdg portal, and the reporting framework Sustainable Municipalities, which is currently developed, will offer a structure for sustainability reports of German municipalities, and it will facilitate the comparison between municipalities. Alternatively, the municipalities in Germany can use the reporting tool in the Sdg portal, which offers the users more flexibility and which was launched last week. Another key finding is that there is still a lack of data-driven indicators in Germany, especially for Sdg 13, so climate action, and Sdg 17, partnerships for the goals. From our perspective, the reason is the lack of centrally accessible Germany-wide data for these SDGs, and respectively a lack of adequate measurement concepts, especially for the ecological sphere. The data analysis as a key element of the research shows that in German municipalities we have positive trends in many SDGs, especially regarding to the economic and poverty indicators in the last years, but there are still some big challenges. For example, in the agriculture, which Germany, including of course with its municipalities, has to tackle in the coming years. So next slide, please. The Sdg portal, as Sabine said, is our key tool to support local actors to implement the sustainability process, and it offers three features: the Sdg indicators, Sdg actions, and Sdg reports. The Sdg portal shows 56 indicators, so the type 1 indicators for which data are available from 2010 to 2019 for all German municipalities with more than 5,000 inhabitants. And you have the possibility to compare the indicators with another municipality of choice and with the federal state. Furthermore, we offer 200 good practices on local level and recommendations for 22 municipal types. And last not least, our new reporting tool where you can configure the report before downloading. So this was a quick overview about our activities, and for a short conclusion, I want to give the floor back to Sabine.
Sabine?
Okay, so if she has technical problems, I concluded. So if you can show the slide once again, please. So the conclusion of the municipal contribution to the German VNR for us is that in a federal multi-level system, of course, the state and local authorities must share responsibility for achieving the goals of the United Nations 2030 agenda. And for us in Germany, this is one key finding of the report, and I think this is our task for the next years to achieve the 2030 agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sabine. Thank you, Mark. And then we finalize this long journey today that we traversed all these 8 countries that reported, that developed the VNR, trying to open or consolidate this debate that began far away in the countries first, between the national and local governments in the preparation of this process. As we are very late, I give directly the floor to our Secretary General, to Emilia Saris, to try to take some takeaways or some messages from this long journey today. But I hope you have a useful travel through all these interesting countries. Thank you, Emilia. This is your turn, please.
Thank you very much, Edgardo. A very challenging job for you and for me, a long journey, not only today, but also the previous months where we have been working intensively. It's worth mentioning the methodology as well. We have supported with some expertise some of the countries that have participated in the subnational reports. The local government associations have received some skill support. Some other associations did not need that, but what we have done for them is to bring them together to be able to exchange the experiences. This group has met several times, and we are delighted to have this culmination of the presentations of the reports in the high-level political forum. And we are particularly grateful for the active participation of the national sphere as well in these presentations. These presentations are going to be shared with you, but above all, this session is going to be part of our treasures in UCL-GTV. So you will be able to go through the presentations again, because it's really, really interesting. We have been hearing many interesting things. In particular, we have seen how all the experiences describe the voluntary subnational reviews as powerful tools for alignment. Alignment, structural dialogue, coordination are words that have come up in every single experience, no matter how big or small the capacities are, or how big or small the challenges are. You have also all talked about shared visions and shared responsibilities. And I think that is also a very important takeaway for our own global network, because we are convinced that the only way that we can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals is if we apply that all of government, all of society approaches. And in order to do that, we think that voluntary subnational reviews, complemented by voluntary local reviews and as an integral part of the voluntary national reviews, are a very good answer to trigger transformation. Because for us, these voluntary subnational reviews are not only, and you have all pointed out to this, they are not only monitoring mechanisms just to see how well or bad you do, but they are also instrumental to create a new type of relationship, a new type of dialogue, even to innovate and to identify the priorities that you need to focus on. You have also, all of you, highlighted the importance of capacity building, enhancing capacity, and for instance, in Mexico, the professionalization of the public service is something that you have related to, but it's also something that Cape Verde has highlighted, the need to provide new skills. But also Sweden and Norway have been talking about innovation and new skills and new priorities. It is worth highlighting that this COVID crisis, you have all said it, has shown us the vulnerability of our system and has highlighted new needs that were not there before. Look, in our 5th annual report towards the localization of the SDGs that we have presented on behalf of our constituency to the high-level political forum this week, we have been able to showcase how during this COVID pandemic, during the emergency, there have been power shifts and also responsibility shifts, which our special envoy on the urban agenda has also pointed to. These shifts are something that we don't know whether they will stay or whether they will go.
These shifts have sometimes been good because they have gone to the level closest to the citizens, listening to the subsidiarity principle, but sometimes we have seen decentralization emerging. These shifts have also led to a different type of service provision, and different services, different essentials are going to be very critical if we want to accelerate the achievement. Whether all of these changes, the good and the bad, stay or not, is something that we will need to see. But I think the decisions around this will be much more intelligent if we make sure that the subnational level of government is in the midst of these deliberations. And so I am really grateful also for the Honorable Minister from Zimbabwe for the openness that he has shown in the recognition of how important the devolution of powers is and how important it is to have a clear division of tasks. Now, that clear division of tasks needs to be accompanied by budget, by financial resources, and that is the other thing that you have all highlighted that will be very critical in the coming times. I'm going to finish by reminding you, because I know we're really late and I still want to give 2 minutes to our special envoy for final wrap up. I want to recall that there has been progress in the way that local and regional governments are involved in the voluntary national reviews. Now, this year we have seen a decline in the number of voluntary national reviews that have made explicit mention of local and regional governments. But that has also an explanation because of the diversity of the very regional diversity, continental diversity of the reports. The mentions, however, are of very high quality, and these voluntary subnational reviews, the inclusion of a specific chapter in Norway, being part and parcel in the case of Germany of this inclusion, the openness of the national level in the case of Cape Verde, in the case of Zimbabwe, about the shortcomings and the challenges that all spheres of government are facing when achieving the SDGs is a good sign that we are starting to all understand how important this symbiosis between the different spheres of government is. As a network, as United Cities and local governments, covering most of the countries of the world and over 240,000 members the world round, we remain committed to making voluntary subnational reviews a cornerstone to national strategies that will help us achieve the goals. And I will stop here by thanking you all and would like to give the floor 2 minutes to our special envoy. I cannot give the floor to Executive Director Maimouna Sharif because she had to rush to another meeting. You know how it is, the high-level political forum, but I am delighted to still have with us our special envoy. 2 minutos, alcalde, porque nos hemos retrasado mucho, pero no podía cerrar sin darle a usted la palabra. No te oímos.
Carlos, estás en mute.
Ahora sí. A ver, ahora. No.
Ahora sí, ¿no?
Sí, perfecto.
Ahora. Bueno, disculparme, que había comenzado a hablar porque tenía solo 2 minutos. Que es verdad que ha sido una larga y extensa reunión, ¿no? Pero sobre todo yo creo que tengo la sensación de que ha sido una más que fructífera reunión, ¿no? Decíamos al principio de esta larga conversación que hoy vamos a conocer, ¿no?, la realidad de la localización de los ODS, la realidad de lo que está sucediendo en muchos gobiernos locales, y precisamente la variedad y la diversidad de ejemplos que se ha puesto en esta sesión nos ha permitido, al menos nos ha hecho que tanteáramos una visión general de cuál es la situación real en distintas partes del planeta sobre las distintas realidades que hoy por hoy están tramitándose a la hora de avanzar en los objetivos del desarrollo sostenible, ¿no? Esa visión general, insisto, nos la dan los informes locales, ¿no? Y esos informes locales que hoy a los que yo tengo que felicitar porque han puesto encima de la mesa con total crudeza en algunas ocasiones, con muchísima valentía en gran parte de ellas, los desafíos, los retos, las oportunidades, los problemas a los que nos estamos enfrentando permanente y constantemente, ¿no? Ha sido un ejercicio de sinceridad abrumador, ¿no? En el que se han puesto encima de la mesa desde los retos más importantes, ¿no? Que es la conexión con la ciudadanía, para que la ciudadanía a su vez demande a los responsables políticos la ejecución de estrategias y acciones concretas, ¿no? Como es el caso de las primeras intervenciones, como esas velocidades mayores, ¿no? Que tienen algunos países con respecto a otros, ¿no? Y esto me hace caer en la siguiente reflexión, ¿no? Que es, también lo poníamos encima de la mesa, ¿no? La necesidad de desarrollar esa estrategia global, para lo cual Red de Ciudades, la red de redes, nuestro movimiento internacional, Ciudades y Gobiernos Locales Unidos, es la herramienta fundamental, ¿no? Ese desarrollo de estrategias globales que genere el desarrollo de empatía, para que, si realmente afirmamos que nadie quede atrás, que ningún territorio quede atrás, no podamos conformarnos única y exclusivamente con el plan de desarrollo de cada uno de nuestros entornos urbanos, sino que intentemos coger esa perspectiva de escala a nivel internacional y seamos capaces de desarrollar ese ejercicio de empatía, de ayuda, de colaboración, de cooperación, para que todo lo que estamos poniendo en marcha en distintos puntos de nuestras estrategias nacionales puedan también complementarse en distintos puntos de otras estrategias nacionales y regionales, ¿no? Esa es la estrategia global con la que tenemos que intentar plantarnos el próximo mes de abril en Nueva York, para que la agenda urbana sea realmente esa territorialización de acciones concretas que lleven a cabo la cobertura de las necesidades a los problemas que tiene gran parte de la ciudadanía, y que, si os dais cuenta, al final son transversales en todos los municipios, ¿no? Estamos hablando prácticamente de idénticos problemas, con mayor o menor grado de intensidad de los mismos, pero con unas raíces comunes, ¿no? La necesidad de un ejercicio de mayor gobernanza horizontal, la necesidad de un mayor compromiso político, la necesidad de una mayor implicación de la ciudadanía para el conocimiento y la exigencia de las administraciones públicas de los ODS, y, por último, como ha dicho México, la necesidad de que las políticas públicas sean las verdaderas políticas correctoras, que, de la mano de la sociedad civil y de la mano de la iniciativa privada, sea capaz de asumir el grandísimo reto al que estamos enfrentándonos, ¿no? Yo, desde luego, me voy satisfecho de esta dosis de realidad que hoy nos hemos dado entre todos, y vamos a ver si somos capaces de seguir creciendo, ¿no? Para seguir asumiendo como digo, el grandísimo reto al que nos estamos enfrentando.
Muchas gracias, alcalde y enviado especial. I mean, following the rules of democracy, I always like to open the floor if there is any emergency, any urgency, anything that we haven't said. If not, I would like to thank my team at the World Secretariat for the job done, in particular research and policy that have been behind these efforts, and also the team at UN Habitat, and I see Martino there. Thank you, Martino, for the continuous support. Thank you again, Honorable Minister, Vice President Gunnarsson. Thank you very much, Special Envoy. Thank you, everybody. Please do take care, and remember, tomorrow is still 2 more sessions on data and social inclusion. Keep well. Thank you so much.